Oh, there we go. I think we're in. Bear with me.
You're good.
All right. Welcome everybody to this episode 55 of the Navigating Now Virtual Roundtable series. I am Anthony Ewing, a partner here at Thoughttium, and we are going a day early this week so that we could accommodate a few schedules. But nonetheless, we're extremely excited to bring you episode 55 today, this Wednesday afternoon. We want to welcome everybody from our streaming community, particularly our LinkedIn community. Those of you who are stopping by the feed, feel free to say hello in the comments. We also want to welcome those folks who are watching this after the live session. We get a lot of recall on this content as we get to share this with our client community as well as our friends and our family. We appreciate you all tuning in. As you know, Navigating Now is really designed to bring great leaders to the forefront of topics that matter most. And I am always so thrilled when we have repeat visitors to the table, and not only repeat visitors, but those who have really grown with us and next to us over the course of the last really couple of years as we've all been navigating now. And we want to welcome back to the table an absolute staple to the Navigating Now community, Chris Oltmans. Chris is the VP at Health Resource Solutions. He is not just a leader within the organization, he is a leader amongst a lot of groups that he's involved in life and community and family. Chris, welcome back to the table and thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, sir. Always love being here. Great to be back. Yeah,
absolutely. So today's episode is really on leadership. And if there's a topic that Chris and I love jamming on more than anything, it's leadership and how leadership is evolving. One of the great things about having friends that are in your circles of business community is that you get to have some of the real conversations, some of the behind the scene conversations that really make us who we are as leaders. And oftentimes, you can hold each other to a level of accountability and discussion that you maybe don't have on a day-to-day basis. And that's the space that Chris and I have shared. And we hope to bring a little bit of that to you today, our community. So we're going to be tackling leadership here in a moment, particularly how Chris has seen it evolve over the course of the last few years. But before we get into it, I always love making the connections. And Chris, I know a little bit about you personally, so I think this is going to be really fun. I want you to think back to your upbringing in your childhood. You're a leader within an organization, you're a father, you're definitely a leader amongst our group of friends. What are maybe one or two experiences or situations or memories that you have as a childhood that if we saw them today, we would say that's exactly why he's in the seat as a VP in the healthcare industry today?
Wow, good one. Making me go back in time here. I think definitely leaning on my sports background, and I know that you have a sports background as well. I had a lot of great coaches and mentors. What's funny is I never was really the leader of a team. I was maybe one of the better players, got to play college sports, but I think, I give a lot of credit to my sports background and just teaching me how to deal with teammates of different personalities, how to figure out where I fit into a team, etc. But I think a lot of it, that I'm really passionate about this talk, Anthony, too, is like our community, right? And you don't realize it when you're a kid, but your coaches, your parents, your teachers, your band instructor, whoever those people were that really coached you. I look back and every chance I get now, I want to tell them thanks. Because I think that, I don't know what your experience was with your soccer, your time in competitive soccer, but I think lean back even subconsciously to a lot of my experiences in sports that have now helped me with competition, whether it's inside the organization, coaching within the organization, or competing outside of the organization as a leader and trying to move things forward. I think it's interesting. I was not a natural born, on the team, and I just got everybody pumped. I think, over time and maturity, I'm the youngest of four. And so I think I was a little bit slow I was a little bit slow to mature, and I'm pretty sure my wife is either going to watch this right now, or she's or she's going to watch it. So she's probably laughing. It's like, yeah, it took him a while to grow up. But I think like as I grew up into my into my professional self, if you will, my sporting background really paid a ton of dividends in terms of understanding how to motivate people, how to get the best out of people, how to figure out where to position people at and coach them to put the most value that they have into the team that we're trying to build. So kind of a long-winded answer, but I really think the sporting background, and I know you had a long soccer, career as well too. I just think sports or any involvement in community and competition has suited me very well.
Where do you think you've gotten your gift of gab?
My dad. My dad was.
That's really where I wanted to go to.
Yeah. You just wanted to talk about Steve. That's fine. So I think last time I was on, we were talking about sense of duty, sense of servitude, and that was my mom. My mom definitely taught me like how to listen and to really respect people and provide a ton of value to them, and they'll provide value to you. The fact that I can talk to somebody for 20 minutes is my dad. So my dad was in sales, all kinds of different sales, and I'm a tried and true Nebraskan. So I'm from Nebraska, and in Nebraska, if you're not nice, you don't last very long. So it's funny when I'm in the L in Chicagoland, and I moved to Chicago in 2006, and I'd be on the L on the red line and just like start talking to a stranger, and friends are like, "What are you doing right now?" It's like, that's what you do. You get to know people. So I think I really had a lot of Midwest, get to know the person next to you, really being vulnerable. Nebraskans, myself, sometimes can even come off as corny. Sometimes like, are you real? I want nothing from you. I just want to know what you're about and really care about what you're saying. So my dad definitely gave me the gift of gab. If you meet my dad on the street, you're going to lose an hour of your life listening to waterways, dirt, the city of Omaha, Nebraska. My dad is going to take an hour of your life away from you talking about what he has done in his life. So yes, the gift of gab is my pops.
I would call that an addition, not a subtraction, but I guess that's up for interpretation. Now, one of the reasons why I love asking this question, and it's a question that I even like to ask, our teammates, is that it inadvertently taps into your deepest sense of self-awareness, right? When you can start to recall where some of these inherent, traits show up in your day-to-day, all the way back to your childhood, that's making a connection between, in our case, decades ago and today. And that oftentimes allows you to focus in on like those just innate, almost like in your chromosomes, capabilities and skills that you have and patterns that you have that would take you a lifetime to reverse. And self-awareness is the ability to not just acknowledge that, but take advantage of it. And I've seen you absolutely take advantage of your leadership style, what you've, the ability to connect with others in so many different ways, and we'll dive into that today. So thank you for tapping into your past a little bit. I'm always so fascinated with that.
It's fun to talk about.
Yeah. So today's all about leadership, and I think one of the most exciting things about our ongoing conversation, Chris, is that you and myself and the team here at Thoughtium have done a really good job of checking in, every other month or so in terms of what we're seeing in leadership. Leading people and teams is your and my primary responsibility today. So as practitioners of leadership, it's important to check in. It's important to acknowledge shifts that have occurred. It's important to understand what is true today that was not true yesterday. And especially now as like that learning cycle is getting a lot quicker. So you joined us on one of the first episodes of Navigating Now. You were one of 3 or 4 panelists, and we were talking really about leadership and continuity. How do we create stability and continuity as we just entered, the front door of the pandemic? Mm-hmm. You then checked in with us about 6 months later or 8 months later, and we were in the thick of it. And we really talked about how leaders, and more specifically businesses, that are really, really doubling down and investing in their business model and their people are winning, and those that aren't are not. And that was to me a fairly provocative thing to think about in a world where we had just come out of 8 months of like, how do we survive? We were starting to talk about how do we really lean in. And I just think it's so timely that we check in again, and now we're here almost 18, 20 months kind of into what has been a huge change for us in the business world and in the world at large. What are some of the big shifts that you've seen since the last time we've talked in the world, in your world of leadership every day?
I see a massive opportunity coming out now where growth is really taking off. I don't know what you're seeing at Thoughtium, but I would assume in your industry, in our industry, the last 3 months specifically, there's this huge potential to take off because everything was kind of put on hold. And now there's this huge slingshot effect that's happened. So there is a demand for leaders. I think anyone who wants to be in a management leadership position or starting their own business, I think this is an absolutely just prime time to go after it. I think there's such a need out there for leadership in organizations, small business or large enterprise, that's what I hear every day. We were a company of about 300 people. We were acquired in January. Now we're part of an organization that's 35,000. And in HRS and now the new organization that we were acquired by, it's the same thing. Is we need leaders, we need people that are going to move this thing up and make it better and get people to be more. So I see massive opportunity for leadership. And I think we talked about this, Anthony, at the beginning of COVID. We talked about there was going to be a multiplier effect upon that time, right? So I think it's okay if some of us shelled and really went into kind of a stability mode during COVID. I think that's normal, but it's not too late, but really, really double down as a leader. If you wanted to open your own business, I think this is an amazing time to do it because there are a lot of companies and people that press pause or even tapped out, understandably so. It was a really tough time, but I see a massive potential in the next 12 months, 24 months to accelerate your growth, accelerate your business, whether again, that's small enterprise or big enterprise. That's what I think has changed, Anthony, is we went from a place where it's just like, how do we get through this to now? I mean, we're trying to go into overdrive as fast as we can because we see a potential to take up so much market share in the next 12 to 24 months if we can innovate and we can hire and we can grow leaders. So I think that's what I've seen change, is where it was, hey, let's be conservative, let's be smart, let's get through this, to now it's like, let's go. Let's try to take this thing to a different level, small or big.
Yeah. I mean, what I'm hearing is, the biggest shift that you've seen from the last time we spoke, which again was about 6 or 8 months ago, and today, is that 6 or 8 months ago, we were collectively realizing the organizational opportunities that occurred when we innovated and we pushed through, and we kind of followed our business model instincts. Yeah. And today, what we're seeing is that opportunity has filtered down almost at the individual level, where us as individuals have maybe found a sense of continuity or stability. We've doubled down on even some of the things that are now bigger priorities for us, and we're in a place where we want to take off. We're in a place where we have what we need, or we've readjusted and we've created those new parameters for our lives and our careers, and now it's a matter of taking off and enabling that. And I feel like we're also less restricted in doing that because there is no given tomorrow, and innovation is kind of at the forefront of everything that we're thinking about doing right now.
Yeah. And what an amazing space, right? I mean, you could be an absolutely amazing performer in a remote setting. You might perform best inside your home every single day. I don't. I'm a social being. I like to be around people, but I think there's such a cool opportunity now for folks that maybe you're more introverted. They didn't excel in an office setting, but that was just the norm. And you got to be here at 9, you got to leave at 5:30. I think there's just such a massive opportunity for people to really, hopefully they have reflected. I think that was a common theme too. Let's reflect, let's have empathy. I hope people have done that over the last couple of years and maybe kind of found out more of where they wanted to go and what they wanted to do, because there's so many different work opportunities now, where in pre-COVID it was really brick and mortar. It was brick and mortar, and it wasn't as innovative. And now on the backside of this, like, we can get so much done, whether it's in the brick and mortar or not. But those individuals that maybe would have been thought of for leadership positions, or they didn't thrive in a really social environment, if they can put it down every day and really clock in, clock out hard from home, there's this whole remote opportunity where you can create a fabulous career in your home. And I think that's just a cool opportunity that's come out of this.
So, we've touched on, maybe, because I want to get into motivation, right? As a leader, we're constantly trying to tap into people's motivations, and those motivational levers have absolutely changed, right? As along with what's happening in the world. And, you and I have touched on maybe two motivational levers. One of them is just the sheer need to change. People have been motivated by, being put in a position where it's virtual first, the sheer shift in the fact that we can work from anywhere, organizations that have, their backs against the wall and they've got to pivot and move. People sometimes are motivated by that. All of that is more of like a forced kind of change that drives motivation. The other thing you and I touched on is those folks who are self-motivated, that see this as an opportunity to take off or to pivot or to develop a new skill, or, to your point, people who have seen, I work better in the virtual first environment. I'm going to take advantage of that and allow it to perpetuate my career. So there's the forced change, there's the self-motivated change. What are some of these other like motivational levers that you're pulling on with individuals that you're seeing light people up, and how are those a little bit different today than they were 2 years ago?
Man, I love that question. And I think one of the biggest things is I was getting, thinking about you and I getting on today, whether it's a small company or a big company, I think everything, the foundation of motivating people and getting the right people is understanding your vision. And that sounds like such a commonplace thing to say, but I look back, I was around for the genesis of Thoughtium, right? And you and Norm sat and thought about your vision and what this company is about and what you wanted to do, creating the space. And that took weeks and months and whiteboards. I think when an organization speaks to that, whether they say the words directly or it's a living, breathing thing inside of an organization every day, now we've poured the foundation. Now we've poured the pad to put the vehicle on, okay? Then once I have that vision in place as a leader, I can start to look at recruiting the right people that have alignment to that vision, so that when I interview or HR interviews them, HRS is changing lives. That's our vision, is changing lives of our patients and people, okay? And then there's a lot that can come out of that. But I think there's a massive opportunity, whether small business, large business, selfpreneur, right? So you're just your own, you're a business of one. When you know your vision and you want to scale and you want to get leaders around you, when you have that vision and you say it in an interview, or I say it amongst a team of people, it will naturally start to align. If you stop and listen, it might not be the best person in terms of metrics that are on the dashboard, but Anthony, probably my number one person right now, she didn't interview 3 years ago and say, I want to run a region. It wasn't that. She was just a very intellectually sound, organized person. But the minute that I told her what this company was about, it was on. It was on. She bought it. She believed in it. She started breathing it and living it. And now she's elevated herself in the company 2-3 steps up. Okay. So I think once you know your vision, and again, if you're big enterprise, that's okay. But I worked for a very, very large company prior to where I'm at right now. And I go through that interview process, and what was lost was what was the vision of that company. And when I went to orientation, it was on the wall, it was on the board, but they never asked me during my interview, this is what we're about. And then watch my reaction. Am I super passionate about what you're selling and what you want to get done? And if I am, let's rock and roll. But I think that's the cool thing is, Anthony, everybody says natural born leaders. I think the company fitting to the vision will curate leaders.
I love that. And I think what I'm hearing you say is like, we've been talking about vision and values a lot. You and I'll tap into values a little bit, but those elements are so much more now than words on the wall. And I know we've always positioned them that way, you know, as an organization that loves to come in and do this work with our teams and our clients. We have leaders that are like really getting into this work and really paying attention to it because they know that it matters. One of the observations that I've had, and this goes back to, again, what are some of these motivational levers that we're pulling today? You know, I had a coaching call earlier today, and I asked this a client of ours, this exact same question, like, what are some of those levers that you're pressing that are different today than they were 2 years ago? And he said, I know we've been talking, a lot of us have been acknowledging that we need to have really good individual discussions with our people because the kind of multi-dimensional understanding of where everybody's coming from is more important today than it ever has been. He said, but if you double click into that, the motivating lever, he said, I'm asking this question more and more than I ever have been. And that question is, tell me a little bit more about that. And he said, as I continue to ask that in my one-on-ones, it is motivating people because, now more than ever, our people need to be heard. And those people who are motivated, those people who really do want to step in, want to tell you how they can do it, right? Within kind of the new field that we've chalked in this world. So, as much as I think we've all been craving more autonomy and kind of control of our sanctity and our support and our families, there are also people that are really grabbing onto like, and here's how I'm going to do this with my career. And this leader said, if you ask them, tell me more about that, like multiple times, you're going to get at like a true underlying motivating lever that you might not have known was there.
I love it. Yeah. And it's such a great point that talk less, listen way more, way more. And so I think, and I love to talk, right? I have no problem going on, but I think as I've grown up, in my professional self, I enjoy listening to my leaders say how they're going to make this business better for our patients and our people. And to your point, Anthony, they feel so empowered. They feel so empowered, they feel so appreciated, and they feel so listened to. So I think that's a great point that you made. But I really think what's amazing to me, Anthony, is that as a leader, as I go through this space, nothing means more to me at this point in my career than watching those people around me grow up in their lives, both professionally and personally. And I think as a leader, this gentleman you were talking to, or the woman you were talking to earlier, they're asking those intentional questions over and over and over because they care about that person across the other side of the table. Their opinion is even more important than my opinion. Now, is that the direction I'm going to go? Maybe not, maybe so. But to really listen and care about what they're saying, and then to watch people grow up around you, to get that call from a leader saying, I just bought my first house. I just had my first kid. I just got my MBA that you said 2 years ago that there's, I told you there's no way I could do that. And you told me to go get that done. And we're huge believers in helping people pay for tuition. I'm telling you, Anthony, like in my point in my life and career, growing people up around me in an organization means more than any monetary number I've hit, any growth number I've hit. It is so impactful as a leader. If you just have that desire to wake up in the morning and to look around you and to listen and to ask and ask and ask, what are you going to do? What can you do to make this company better? And then to have that person call you on the phone and say, I just bought my first house. Thank you. Dude, I mean, it is the end all be all for me. And it's really just hit me in the last 60, 90 days. It's just to watch these people grow up around me. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's incredible. Give me, because again, I know you are, you're working across a lot of different people. Like, give me an example of, somebody really taking charge of their own career in a way that, they almost, came to you voluntarily and said, hey, this is a path that I see and that I want to take. And how were you able to kind of enable that self-directed approach?
Man, great. That's perfect. So there was a clinician that was out of our Nebraska branch that got out of PT school about 3 years ago, physical therapist school, right? 3 years ago. But he interviewed with the person who was leading that branch. That person came to me and said, "Hey, this guy wants more. He wants to lead. He wants to innovate. He wants to be a leader in healthcare." I went and had coffee with him in the first 30 days of employment. And first off, he believed in our vision. First off, he believed in changing lives. So I have to check that box first, right? So that I know that I'm going to go ahead and latch onto this person and take him with. Listen to what he wanted to do. It was an MBA first. So he went to MBA classes, which we supported, paid his tuition, helped out all the way through his first year and a half within the organization. What do you want to do next? I'd love to learn the operations of the business. He had earned that ability to interview for that role. He moves up. He runs a branch. Then within a year of him running the branch, he's like, I want to really go learn informatics, and I want to learn how to do statistical regression and strategic analytics within Google platforms, just like crazy forward thinking stuff, especially in healthcare. And now he's going to get that certificate. Okay, so literally across 3 years, this person went from graduating from a master's level program, no experience in an industry, to leading a group of about 20-25 people, to now he's got potential for enterprise impact. And so, but I guess that's an example, Anthony, of this does not need to be somebody that's got 25 years of experience or they've got all the credentials and all the stuff, but they just believe organizationally what you want to do. And I think first and foremost, Anthony, people really help them out. If there's somebody out there listening that wants to be a leader, you got to raise your hand. I think you got to be proactive about, this is where I want to go, because if you don't do it, somebody else is going to do it. Somebody else is going to be proactive and go to someone like myself and say, I want more. I love home health care. I love medicine. I want more. I want to do that. But if there's 200 people in this organization, that's one of the biggest things that I think will stop people is self-doubt. So your question was, give me an example of how I took someone through. One, they believed in the vision. So I knew I had somebody that just from the DNA, they believed in what we built and what I'm about, what we're about as a company. That's one. Two, they had the guts. They had the guts to be barely out of school and say, hey, I want to let you know in 2 to 3 years, this is where I want to get to. Okay. And then I have the ability to say, that's cool. You're going to have to work your butt off. You're going to have to work hard. I'm going to call late. I'm going to ask you, we're going to work on projects together after hours. But I think one, again, I go back to the foundation of believing in what the company's about. And two, you have to have the guts to raise your hand and say, I want to lead.
I want to pivot here for a moment, because you've got me thinking about, even my own leadership style, right? And I think you and I have a lot of similarities. And one of those is the majority of what I've learned as a leader has been through, of course, great leaders around me in my professional life, but a lot of it has been through my friends and those people that are close to me and in conversation, a lot of times outside of work. And obviously you've been a huge part of that. So tell me a little bit about, outside of your formal organization, like what has influenced you the most as a leader? And I ask this because I think this is something we can help more junior leaders or those who aspire to lead people. There are tools that exist outside of kind of the formal tool bag. And for me, it's like, I go back, Chris, to like jam sessions that you and I and Nate and a couple of our friends would host outside of our works. We would book our own space here in Chicago. People would fly in. We would take flip chart paper from whatever organization we were a part of, and we would just put it up on the wall and we would just jam. And I learned so much from you all. Had no clue what you were doing on a day-to-day basis. But that we didn't realize it, but we were building our own sense of leadership. And it's like, I like bringing those anecdotes to our people in a way that maybe inspires them to think outside of the formal toolkit. So what are some of those informal ways that you sharpen your leadership sword?
Just access to community, Anthony. And I think this platform, cheers to you, what you've committed to do. I listen to Tim Jones, I listen to Jim Graziano. I mean, seriously, if I can't listen to it live, this is no joke. Like, for me, it's usually after hours. I'll listen to it on an hour-long walk or a workout, and I take this stuff in. But I think you make such a great point that we think that the learning potential is only inside of the 9 to 5, right? It's like, oh, I left the office today, or I clocked out. Now it's just time to go. If you want to, it's such, people overcomplicate these things. If you want to do more, go learn. And the cool thing is, you don't have to pick up a book. Go talk to a friend, go talk to a trusted mentor, but access to your community, Anthony. And I think you said it so well that, whether it's a small business association, whether it's a young entrepreneurs association, Omaha is a community of about 1 million people. We've got 3 or 4 small business units running. Some are 30 and younger, some are 30 and over. But to your point, I think, and again, so much of it is just being vulnerable. So much of it is understanding. I always make people laugh when I get into a room, because I am telling you right now, I am not the smartest person in the room. And I know that. I have my skills, but I intently listen, and I'm an absolute sponge for information. So what's really cool is, probably 10, 15 years ago, we would sit on Addison Street and we would talk until 2 a.m. Some of those aggregate details, they're coming out of me, right? And they're, again, probably subconscious at this point, but those are all things that I've built over time by my friends, by my community. And I would say this again, I really mean this. If somebody knows me on LinkedIn, I've responded to every single personal message I got on LinkedIn the last 2 years. I've written back to that person, even if I couldn't, I couldn't make their business ask happen. If you want to rap for 30 minutes about your industry or where you're at, I will talk to you. I don't need to know you. And I think that's the biggest thing. It's a commitment, though. It's a commitment that you've made, that all the people that get on this forum have made. We want to see the business world get better. We want to see the business world get more impactful to people's lives. We want to see the business world be more enriching. Let's get rid of just clocking in and out. Stop that. Yeah. Stop that. And go talk to your community, because the cool thing is, Anthony, I don't know if I've ever thought about it as clearly as I have in this moment. I'm sitting here right where I am right now because of you and because of my friends around me, right? That you guys got to places that I was like, that's awesome. You you motivated me, or you made something click in my head that made me think about the next idea and the next step. Yeah. But I think one big thing, Anthony, is people need the invite. People need the invite to pick up the phone and to talk to people like you and me or somebody else that you don't know. And the other thing is, this webinar is free from 3 to 4 once a week, man. What's stopping you? And the part that I'm getting really, really sensitive to now is in akin to is listening to leaders that they have all the stuff, like they make a ton of money, they're running this huge group of team. And then I talk to them at 6:30 and they're like, bleh. I'm like, what's going on? Because you're crushing it. What's going on? It's like, I think to your point, they have lost the ability to talk to their friends that maybe can help them through the situation that they're in, you might need a new chapter. You might need an entirely new chapter. But if you're only talking to the people inside the 9 to 5 and not relying on your community to help guide you, you might be missing a whole chapter of your life that you're never going to turn that page because you're not relying on a community. And free access like this, Anthony, you're on here an hour every week offering all this stuff. And, and that's the beautiful thing about the world right now. There's all this information out there you can go get. But anyway,
I love that. This is one of the so many reasons why, our entire team just really appreciates your leadership style, Chris, because it's what I would call like completely open source. It's not limited to a specific industry, a specific organization, a specific team. I mean, your role as a leader is to go out and influence every day. And whether that's in an individual discussion with, somebody reporting into you, or whether that's, flying through our Chicago office with a couple cups of coffee, just popping in to say, I believe in what you guys are doing. I also maybe want to give like a very tactical and specific expression of what tapping into your friends and your community might look like, because this is an actual activity that you and I and our close group have done probably 5 or 6 times over the course of the last 15 years. And again, you said it, we didn't know what we were doing at the time. We just knew that we needed to get in a room and do it. And that is for anybody who is looking to advance significantly in their career within their organization. And even more so, those folks who are looking to jump out and do something totally new or go out on their own or start a business. One of the most powerful things you can do is to get 3 or 4 of your friends, find a third space, a space that is not your office or your home or your buddy's house. Find a third space, make the $150 investment. Peerspace.com is a great website to find a third space. Meet 2 or 3 of your friends live, get some flip chart paper, and spend about 3 or 4 hours where each of you defines who you are, what your purpose is, and how you would go to market with it. And even if, again, you do not have aspirations to go out on your own or to be an independent consultant or start a consulting company, the ability to position yourself in a way of who you are, your purpose, and your value proposition is something that, again, your friends can reflect back to you sometimes greater than anybody that you directly report into. It's also just a tool that you need in your back pocket in day-to-day conversations, in difficult conversations, and particularly in advancement conversations. And that environment, that independent environment where you've got people that you know and you love and you trust, and you're working through this and you're expressing it and you're getting feedback, it might sound like, well, everybody should know who they are and their purpose. Yet try to do that on flip chart paper in front of 3 of your best friends. And there's a little bit of tension there. And there's a lot of opportunity to really get vulnerable with who you actually are and have your friends really push you to exactly the value that you bring to relationships and to the marketplace. It's something that I know you and I and a couple others have done 3 or 4 times over the last 15 years. And I mean, again, you could go and pay 10 grand for a master's course in career development and self-ownership, and you wouldn't get what I've gotten out of those sessions.
No, and Anthony, be reflective of your time. Anybody that we're talking about, right? Be reflective of the time you spend every week. Give an hour up of your week of Facebook, of watching TV, of whatever. If you are sitting there and you're like, I want more, and it doesn't have to be leadership either. It might just even be unleashing the creative ability that you have in your mind. Give that hour up to go sit with 3 or 4 of your friends and just rap in a room and get the board up. And again, I think the thing that you're offering, I'm willing to offer at this point in my life and career too, is if you need help creating that space, you need 15 minutes to understand, like, what do I put up on the board? Like tactfully, Anthony, telling them, like teaching them the exercises you've taken me through. And I know I've watched you take organizations through. If you need help doing that, I'm challenging a lot of people out there now too, is it's like, if you want more or you want to understand maybe where you want to be more, give that hour up of time that maybe isn't the most productive during the week. Go into a room with 3 or 4 of your best friends that push you and see what comes of it. But I'm getting really sensitive, Anthony, to the people that, they're not pointing in the mirror, right? They're looking every which way at why they're not getting what they want to get. And what I can promise you, what I've found in leadership, I'm going to give you a number or 2. This is what you want. This is these 2 numbers. If you hit these 2 numbers, and I'm going to teach you how to get there. So extremely simple goal setting. I say that for any leader out there that, it's like, if people come into the office at 9 o'clock and they feel lost, we have to, as leaders, stop and say, I have not given them very simple go-tos to know if my day was a win or a loss, or a red or a green. Okay. And I'm correlating that back to the exercise that you just said. You can take that to your personal life as well. And if you're having trouble getting there, which most people do, because I don't think college teaches us to do that. College doesn't naturally line us up, or education, high school doesn't naturally line us up to figure out exactly where you want to go. I think you do one test in 10th grade that tells you want to be a veterinarian or something like that, right? There's no like, you need community, you need people around you to put those goals in front of you and to push you. And one thing that breaks my heart probably more than anything is when I talk to people and they're just down, like they're just, and if it's something personal, I'm going to help them through that. But if they're miserable inside the 9 to 5, that person to me has a spotlight. I want to go help them and just simply start with, what do you think you do every day? I don't know. Well, let's structure that. And tomorrow when you come in, I want you to do these 2 things and I want you to do them really well. And guess what? When they hit that 5 days in a row, the spark turns on a little bit and you just keep doing that. So
I love that.
But
I love
inside or outside of work, just keep the goals and the KPIs simple and just try to execute upon that first. So
I love that. Man, I could sit here and jam for another hour and a half with you. I really hope that people tuning in got a couple of nuggets from this. I always get a couple of just very specific nuggets from you, Chris. And again, that's another incredible expression of your leadership. Before we go, quick lightning round. Sure. What are you right now reading, listening to, paying attention to out there?
Reading is Principles by Ray Dalio. So serial entrepreneur / amazing world investor. It really talks about in Principles, understanding neurophysiology and hiring the right people. It's incredible. It's an incredible book. So I'd highly, anybody that's looking at building teams or just building themselves, how to interact with people, I'd recommend that. All the other attention, man, is on my family. I love my wife and my girls are just so fun. We're 8, 6, and 18 months right now. And it's an amazingly fun time, man. I'm watching one of them like really come into their own and kind of becoming a mother hubbard of her own. And then I've got an 18-month-old that, and it's made me better. It's made me better as a leader. Interacting, and it's funny, you interact and you psychologically like try to work with a child. It can be super similar with an adult. It's just different, obviously. But no, man, all my time that I can is with Jacqueline and with the girls. And that's my interest outside of work. A lot of soccer, a lot of dance, a lot of laughing, and just really trying to take in the moment, because I'm extremely dedicated to what I'm doing inside the Monday through Friday. So yeah, thanks for asking though.
You almost answered it, but you didn't fully. So I'm going to ask the next. This is a great transition to the next lightning round question, and it's very similar to a question that I asked Jacqueline and her 2 brothers on a few episodes past. You have 3 girls: Olivia, Ariana, and Lola. You have to choose. One of them has to run the country. One of them has to run your business, and one of them has to run your family.
Okay.
Who would go where?
Okay. Business, country, and family.
Yeah.
Business, country, and family. Business, I would say, oh man. Business is Ariana. So just absolutely ruthless. Sales background blows, right? I think Ariana is going to absolutely, like, if I'm still working, like if I can bring her in as a sales associate, all freaking day, man. That kid can sell and sell and sell. And then I would say the country, Olivia, very pragmatic, pretty buttoned up.
Your
like
oldest.
She thinks that, my oldest. And then running the family, Lola, because she's 18 months, but I think Lola and Olivia are going to have a lot in common. But I almost went with Ariana on the front end, but I feel like she would have some economic policies that could potentially take the whole thing down. So I went more conservative, and I put Ariana in kind of like the the gunslinger growth part of a business.
Oh, I love that.
And
I'm sure those of you who don't know Chris and his family, I'm sure can get a laugh out of that. Those of you who do probably can make some connections, and I'm excited to ask Jacqueline the same question. First and foremost, Chris, I want to thank you for your just steadfast belief in this community navigating now. You can hear it on today's channel, and we feel it in every one of our interactions. And that's not just mine, but our entire team. Thank you for being such a blind supporter of who we are and what we do. Thank you for your leadership. I know that today's topic was about leadership, and hopefully our community got a lot out of the discussion. But I want to thank you for the leadership that you're putting out there on a day-to-day basis. It's seen, and we all learn from it. And most importantly, brother, thank you for your friendship. As always, these interactions that I'm having with you, both on camera and off, are what I've absolutely lived for. As a child looking forward to my adulthood, these are the conversations that I'm just so fortunate to have. So thank you so much for joining.
And I appreciate it. And I know we're getting tight on time. Anthony, every single time that I'm blessed enough to be on, I want to say thank you for your commitment to doing this, man. Like, a lot of people don't understand, you built this thing from absolute scratch, and you put the camera up and you put the mic up and Anthony, like, sincerely, I learned a ton from these episodes. And also, a lot of people don't understand what you and Norm are building, and to be a part of that. And it's just really impactful to watch the people you guys are putting around yourselves and raising up. And so I just wanted to say thanks for the commitment to keep this going. A lot of people could have stopped after COVID's over, we don't need to do the show anymore. You've committed to this, and now just watching what you and Norm are building, and like everything that we said today, you guys live and breathe this. So it's not just a show, you guys do it every day. So I wanted to say thanks. And secondarily, I just love being a part of your guys' ride. I love watching you guys continue to grow. It's awesome.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Chris. We all appreciate it. And speaking of the ride continues. We are live every Thursday afternoon at 3:00. We have a lot of great discussions like this, with people that are very close to our community. And we also love to bring new leaders in. So next week, we've got 2 new guests at the Roundtable. And we're going to be talking about partnerships, key strategic partnerships. We're thrilled to be having both Betsy Ogren, the program director of Inheritance of Hope, as well as Sheena Wild, the VP of Philanthropy for Kendra Scott. 2 really fascinating organizations that have philanthropy and giving back as at least one of their core pillars. And they've been doing some exciting things in partnership. So we're going to be unpacking partnership and what that means to growing organizations. Next Thursday, August 26th, 3:00. As always, information and signups are at thoughtium.com/live. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Have a great rest of the week, and we will see you next Thursday. Talk to you soon.